Now what we want to do is we want to add a drop down here that will have a list of all the categories that we have in our product. So for that, what I have done is I have created 4 categories that we'll be using. So let's see how we can do that. We need to fetch all of those inside product controller in Upsert, and we have to pass that over to the view. Now since we only need for this specific request, we might think of a hacky way. Thankfully, ASP.NET Core has hacky ways of doing things if you want to. One of the approach is using view data or view bag. View datas and view bags are used if you want to pass some data from the controller to the view. That is exactly what we want to do here. So here we can add another property and we'll call this IEnumerable of select list item for dropdowns. You can see you'll have to add microsoft.aspnetcore.mvc.rendering. Let's call this category dropdown. And here we will retrieve all the categories from database. So _db.categories, and then out of category, we only want the name of the category and ID of the category. So for that, with EF Core, we have projections that we can do using .select. In here, we can say I goes to new. We want to project the category to a select list item. So we can do that. And then what we want to do is we want to set the text of the select list item to I.name, and we want to set the value to the ID. So we'll say .id.toString. So here we are retrieving all of the categories from the database, but we are converting them to a select list item so that we can have that in an enumerable object and we can display them in a dropdown. So you can see EF Core is pretty powerful and you can do lots of things there. Once we have that, now we need to pass this category dropdown to our view so that we can display it. So for that, one approach is using view bag dot. Here we have to create our own variable. So what variable do we want to call this category dropdown? Let's just call it the same. So we'll just say viewBag.category dropdown. And then what do we want to assign to this viewBag of category dropdown? We just want to assign the category dropdown. Great, so you can see how easy it was to assign anything to a viewBag. You can create as many viewBag properties that you want, but these are ideal for temporary data that we have to pass from controller to the view. That being said, how do we retrieve this inside our view, which is Upsert right here? So we have hidden the description. Let's add a dropdown here. So rather than label here, we can just display category ID here. And then we need dropdown right here. So with dropdown, we can have a select tag and we need the ASP4. This will be for category ID. After that, we need list of all the items. So we'll say ASP items, and this list is inside view bag dot. What is the name? We'll copy this name category dropdown and paste it right here. We will give it a bootstrap class of form control. Within the select tag, I want to add an option which will be selected, and I will call this select category. Great, let's run our application and see how things look like. We also have to change the validation to category ID. We'll save that as well. If we go to product, and if we hit create new product, and right here you see a drop down. If you click here, great, we see all the 4 options. What I want to do, one thing is, if we go back with the selected, I can also add disable here. If you save this and refresh, let me show you what's different. Initially select category will be written, but then if you try to select it again, you see it's not possible. You have to select one of these 4. So it's just enforcing some validation. So it's just forcing user to select one of the category. So with this, we have learned few important concepts in Entity Framework Core as well as ASP.NET Core. Let's summarize them in the next video.